Harry's Wife, Part 100.24, The Disintegration of the Duchess. Some time ago, I produced a countdown of the 10 people that Harry's wife ought to fear. Somebody else had presented an article which I had commented about with regard to the individuals they thought you ought to fear. I didn't think that was entirely accurate, and therefore I created my own video countdown. Many of you enjoyed that. That was done last year, or I think earlier this year. Either way, it was done some time ago. And unless you want to hear the outcome now, I suggest you put your fingers in your ears so you don't get the spoiler if you want to watch it all the way through. I explained that Harry's wife is her own worst enemy. And the person that she should fear the most is herself. And I explained in detail why that is. And so you can revisit that video and find out what the explanation is and the circumstances surrounding it. What I predicted, along with the downward spiral, is now happening. And we provide more evidence of that as the disintegration continues. First, we go to the Washington Examiner, where the opinion piece by Tiana Lowe states, Harry's wife moans about her life as a Hollywood trophy wife. Yes, it's another publication that has identified her behaviours and, of course, is essentially, to use their parlance, calling them out. The article states as follows. For someone who incessantly complains about being silenced, Harry's wife never seems to shut up. Contradiction, hypocrisy. The B-list actress, formerly known as the Duchess of Sussex, has officially spent more time whining about her royal in-laws than she actually spent as a working royal. Pity plays, sympathy symphonies, and disproportionate response. Fewer than 2 years, including an extended maternity vacation. Now, she is in the cut, moaning about her horrible life as a Hollywood trophy wife to a literal prince. The magazine's cover star was ostensibly promoting the overdue launch of her feminist podcast, Archetypes. A full 21 months elapsed between Harry's wife and her husband Harry inking their reported $25 million deal with Spotify and the launch of their first series. So the Mountbatten Windsors needed the coverage as much as the cut needed the clicks. But the real drama came not from Harry's wife, rehashing, yet again how, to borrow a phrase from Tina Brown, a 1,000-year-old company headed by a 96-year-old monarch was insufficiently progressive for a Soho House socialite. It was, rather, Harry's wife's thoroughly modern and distinctly Californian woe, keeping up with the Joneses of Monty Shit's show. When Harry first blindsided his dear old dad and granny with the news that he and his wife were divorcing the family, they decamped from Canada to California. This, of course, is the assertion of control by withdrawal. It also enabled Harry's wife to assert greater control over Harry by removing him from his support networks, as I've explained on many occasions. Despite having never met billionaire producer Tyler Perry in person, Harry's wife nabbed an invite for her and Harry to sojourn at his Beverly Hills mansion at the start of the pandemic. Then Harry's wife found the house, described by the Cut's Alison P. Davis as the kind of big that startles you into remembering that unimaginable wealth is actually someone's daily reality. Backhanded compliment there, of course. Evokes a classic Tuscan villa, a Napa vineyard, and a manicured Beverly Hills country club, decorated with careful, considered coastal tones for casual air, the home equivalent of billionaires dressing down in denim. Again, backhanded compliment, not that Harry's wife would have picked up on that. We didn't have jobs, so we're not going to come and see this house. Harry's wife lamented to the magazine of her initial reaction to the mansion back when the couple was dependent on giving J.P. Morgan speeches for income. "It wasn't possible. It's like when I was younger and you're window shopping. It's like, I don't want to go and look at all the things that I can't afford. That doesn't feel good." Lo and behold, Spotify handed them that reported $25 million and Netflix another $100 million. To date, Archewell has produced about 2 hours of content for the former and 0 for the latter. Like any good fairy tale, the princess scored her happy ending, purchasing the $14 million Monty Shit Show mansion shortly before she and Harry excoriated the Queen, her dying husband, and the Prince of Wales in an Oprah interview blasted across the world, smearing. "One of the first things my husband saw when we walked around the house was those 2 palm trees," Harry's wife told Davis. "See how they're connected at the bottom?" He goes, "My love, it's us." And now, every day, when Archie goes by us, he says, "Hi, Mama. Hi, Papa." As the Sussex said surely says, this is self-care for the rich, famous, and feckless. Ordinarily, one would expect that the Washington Examiner would be relatively supportive of Harry's wife. Oh, how the tide has turned as a consequence of them now reporting on that interview, which of course is repeatedly, in essence, causing a fuel crisis by 1,000 cuts. The more that people comment on the cut, although that provides her with fuel, more and more people are going to turn their backs upon her, retreat from her, as they see just how preposterous she is. It also demonstrates that her narcissism operating in the moment, and that she's not Machiavellian or calculating or of a high cognitive function. Otherwise, she would have never given that interview, never allowed it to see the light of day, because essentially it's a piss take. And it's being used again and again and again by publications and those on social media to lambast her, ridicule her, and continue the disintegration. But it just doesn't stop there with the Washington Examiner. Commentary comes from Showbiz Cheat Sheet from an article by Grace Turney that states, "Fans slam insufferable and out of touch Harry's wife for saying she couldn't afford her $14 million Monty Shit Show mansion." Yes, she comes under further criticism once again. Fans slammed Harry's wife for comments she recently made about how she and Prince Harry couldn't afford their massive mansion in Monty Shit Show. Here's what Harry's wife said about buying her home and how fans reacted. Harry's wife said she and Prince William almost didn't tour, although I think they mean Prince Harry, their $40 million Monty Shit Show home because they couldn't afford it. Or maybe that's a Freudian slip on the part of Harry's wife that she wanted Prince William there instead of Prince Harry. In 2020, Prince Harry and Harry's wife purchased a 19,000 square foot estate in Monty Shit Show, California, after announcing that they were stepping back from their royal duties. The $14 million Mediterranean-style home boasts 9 bedrooms and 16 bathrooms, although we really know there are 27,000 flushing toilets. It has a library, a gym, yada yada yada. We don't need to know all of that. Harry's wife said she and Prince Harry initially refused to tour the Monty Shit Show home because it was out of their price range. And there's a quote about not having jobs. But the Monty Shit Show estate kept popping up in their online searches, so they agreed to tour it and fell in love with the place. Matt Wilkinson states, "Have reread this Harry's wife's interview many, many times today. We are surely at the stage when a grown-up needs to ask the couple who, if anyone, is advising them, because this is becoming irreversibly embarrassing for them both and the royal family." Fans are discussing the Duchess of Sussex's comments about her home in a Reddit thread titled "Harry's Wife on the Struggle of Not Being Able to Afford Her $40 million House." Many slammed what they saw as Harry's wife's attempts at being relatable while living in a $14 million home is far from what the average person could afford. "I would also struggle to afford a $14 million house, so we've actually got a lot in common," wrote one fan, while another commented, "Yeah, and some of us can't even afford a $600 roach-infested apartment. Poor, poor Harry's wife." In a comment that has received over 2,400 upvotes, one fan wrote, "Wow, never thought I'd be able to relate to a princess. I also cannot afford her $14 million house." "How out of touch and tone deaf," said one fan, while another commented, "Laugh my fucking arse off, this is insufferable." One fan wrote, "So relatable, real people's princess," while another said, "Poor attempt at being relatable." The Spectator, in an article stating the narcissism of Harry's wife, which I've read to you before, tweeted, "There's a gaping disconnect from reality. Is the single mum who's stocking up on cheap jumpers because she won't be able to put the heating on this Christmas meant to feel sorry for speechless, moaning Harry's wife of Monty Shit Show? Read the room, Meg." The Duke and Duchess of Sussex's net worth apparently $60 million. Even though Harry's wife and Prince Harry stepped down from their royal duties in 2020, they still have a huge fortune. According to Celebrity Net Worth, the couple has a combined net worth of $60 million. Before marrying Prince Harry in 2018, Harry's wife's net worth was $5 million. Harry had a net worth of $20 million, most of which came from a trust fund established by his late mother, Diana, Princess of Wales. The fact is, once again, these complaints where she deals out as a pity play in an attempt to assert control over the readership by causing them to feel that they should feel sympathetic for her as a consequence of the fact that she can't really afford this house. And of course, it completely backfires because more and more people look at it and think, you are a complete clown. Various comments are being made time and time again about how she's insufferable, how she's tone deaf. That tide is building. And yet there's more, this time from the Mail Online, from Daily Mail Australia, from Monique Friedlander, who writes, "Outspoken Australian radio host Kyle Sandilands has branded Harry's wife an imbecile after the Duchess of Sussex accused the British press of racism in her new interview with The Cut magazine. The former Suits actress, 41, claimed journalists called her 3-year-old son Archie the N-word, as she explained why she hated the royal protocol that required her to share family photos with the UK tabloids. Why would I give the very people that are calling my children the N-word a photo of my child before I can share it with the people that love my child," she said. Discussing her claims on the Kyle and Jackie O show on Tuesday, Sandilands and his co-host Jackie O Henderson agreed it was time for Harry's wife to move on from her feud with the British press. They also wondered how Harry's wife could have learned such slurs were allegedly being used in newsrooms, as she did not name names or identify her source. Sandilands, 52, had little sympathy for the American-born royal, scoffing, "She needs to get over it. She's an imbecile." Henderson, 47, also addressed Harry's wife's complaints about the royal rota rules concerning the supply of photos of her children. "If you're joining the royal family, yes, they have these rules in place, and they have done so for many, many years. You can't come in and just go, 'I don't agree with your rules, so I'm not going to do it,'" she said. Henderson and Sandilands both agreed they were sick of hearing Harry's wife's woe-is-me stories about life as a front-line royal. The radio duo went on to defend the royal family after Harry's wife plunged the monarchy into crisis in March last year by telling Oprah Winfrey that an unnamed family member had expressed concern about Archie's skin before he was born. "I find that to be quite a normal family discussion. I don't think that's racist to wonder, oh, you're black, you're white, I wonder what colour the baby will be. That's quite a normal thought," Sandilands reasoned. Harry's wife made it sound like it was an awful colonial type of diss towards the black person. Henderson agreed, saying she took the remark as innocent curiosity that someone might have had about Archie's appearance. Later, in Tuesday's broadcast, Sandilands and Henderson spoke to Today Show host Carl Stefanovic about his criticism of Harry's wife for comparing herself to Nelson Mandela in her interview with The Cut. Stefanovic had scoffed incredulously at Harry's wife's claims that while speaking to Nine's London correspondent Tracy Vaux earlier that morning, telling his co-host Alison Langdon, "It's hard to see how that would sit with the royal family, especially the Mandela references." Doubling down on his comments, Stefanovic told the Kiss FM radio show he believed that there was something wrong with Harry's wife. "Playing the victim all the time is starting to wear thin," Sandilands remarked. Stefanovic, 48, who has never been shy to criticise Harry's wife, later added, any kind of sympathy that anyone had for her is now evaporated. It comes as Harry's wife's interview with The Cut, part of New York Magazine, continues to spark backlash. In it, she claims she and Prince Harry were happy to leave Britain and were upsetting the dynamic of the hierarchy just by existing before they stepped down as frontline royals and moved to North America. She also claimed that while the couple asked for when they wanted financial freedom was not reinventing the wheel. It then goes on continuing to regurgitate all of the ridiculous things that she has continued to state. And of course, once again, we have here the newspaper articulating the criticism of her, backlash occurring within Australia, and it shows so many people are continuing to speak out and recognise. In so doing, it's challenge fuel for her. So it's not so much a problem they're speaking about her, that's all good fuel. The problem is, it's repeatedly criticising her, which means again and again and again, her narcissism has to compel her to deal with that threat to control. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.